Today is lecture number 6 of this Introduction to Physical Metallurgy class. And these are the contents we'll discuss today. Comparison between chemical bonds. If you remember, in the previous lecture, we are on the topic that is on bonding. We have two kinds of bond, physical and chemical. That is basically physical bonds are weak bonds like van der Waals forces, hydrogen bonds, right? And strong bonds are chemical bonds, which are basically three types: metallic bonding, covalent bonding, and last one is
Ionic bonding.
ionic bonding. Yes. So first of all, we will again see the difference today. Then I'll show you some images of different bonds in solids. Then we'll discuss about the structure of water and how the bonding in the water, or basically how the bonding in the H2O will have different consequences, or how the property is getting changed. Then some product, same product, different engineering materials. Yeah. So we'll discuss a particular product which can be made up of different kinds of engineering materials, and its advantages and disadvantages. Then material science and engineering in one image, and finally further classification of materials. So first one is the comparison between different primary bonds. So first one is the bond between, yes. So you can see the bond between, in case of ionic bond, the bond is formed between a metal and a non-metal atom, right? But in case of covalent bonding, it is between two non-metallic atom. And in case of metallic bonding, the bond is formed between two metallic atoms, fine. And the mechanism, if you remember, the mechanism in the ionic bonding is, if you remember, one will be metallic atom will be carrying positively charged, and non-metallic atom will be carrying negatively charged. They become ions, and they will attract by strong electrostatic force of attraction that leads to the bonding. Fine. But in case of covalent bonding, there will be sharing of electron will take place. Suppose two non-metal are taking part in the bonding, each non-metallic atom will share some electron with one another, right? That will be common to the two atoms. That electron will be common to the two atoms. That leads to the bonding. Fine. But in case of metallic bonding, again here strong electrostatic force of attraction is existing between the free electrons, which is called electron cloud or electron sea, with that of the positively charged ion present in the center. Fine. Or that is called positive ion core. Then if you look into the directional characteristics, then ionic bonding are non-directional, because you understand, surrounding a positive ion and negative ion, the bonding is present, right, everywhere, right? The magnitude of bonding is same everywhere surrounding the positive ion or negative ion, right? Positive ion will be surrounded by negative ion will be surrounded by positive ion. That leads to bonding, right? But in case of covalent bonding, it is directional bond. It is in between. It is the bond is present in between the two atoms only. So that directional. But in case of metallic bonding, again, because the sea of electron is free to move, it is freely moving, right? So the bonding is not directional. And present in which engineering materials? Basically, ionic bonding is present in ceramic materials, basically. Covalent bonding is present in polymers and ceramics also, right? And metallic bonding is present in metals and alloys, right? The magnitude of bond, you can see the magnitude of bond strength or bond energy is maximum in case of ionic bond, 600 to 1500 kilojoule per mole. And in case of covalent bonding, the data is absent anyways. But in case of metallic bonding, it is very small to a medium value, 850. Then melting point. Melting point, ionic materials have very high material with ionic bonding have very high melting point. Covalent bonding low to high. And in case of metallic, it is also low to high. For example, here low to high means mercury have very low melting point, so minus 33, 39, 38 like that. But in case of tungsten, you understand, it is nearly above 3000 degrees centigrade. In covalent bonding, low to high, if you remember the diamond having very high melting point, right, 3550 degrees centigrade, whereas low in bismuth. And ionic bonding, all ceramics basically possess high melting point. Then electrical and thermal property. The metal possessing ionic bondings are insulators. Covalent bonding are also insulators because free electrons are missing here. But in case of metallic bonding, they are good conductors of electricity and thermal conductivity. These are the images showing different kind of chemical bonds and physical bonds, or primary bond and secondary bonds. Fine. The first, this image is clearly showing we have positive ions and negative ions. And positive ion is a metallic ion, and this is a non-metallic ion, right? So this is an ionic bonding, and you can see Coulombic bonding force is existing between positive and negative ion. And you can see in this kind of bonding, and suppose this is a material sodium chloride, fine. So sodium chloride have ionic bonding because sodium is carrying positively charged and chlorine is carrying negatively charged, and there is a strong electrostatic force of attraction between them that creates the bond, fine. And you can see, suppose you consider this chlorine, this chlorine is surrounded by, this is a negative ion, this is surrounded by positive ion, this one, this one, this one, and this one. You consider any positive ion, suppose this positive ion, sodium ion, this is surrounded by negative ions, this one, this one, this one, and this one, right? You consider any positive ion, any negative ion, they will be surrounded by just opposite ions, and the charge neutrality is always maintained basically. Second, here you can see this is a image showing covalent bonding. The best example I have given you is the methane, CH4. 1 carbon and 4 hydrogen atoms, fine. You can see the outermost electron of the carbon is having 4 electrons, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So it needs 4 electrons to attain stable configuration, right? So each hydrogen atom will share one electron to the carbon. This hydrogen atom is sharing 1 electron. This hydrogen atom is sharing 1 electron. This hydrogen atom is sharing 1 electron here. This hydrogen atom is sharing 1 electron here, right? So now what will happen? Carbon will get a stable electronic configuration. You can see now 8 number of electrons are present in the outermost shell, right? Similarly, in case of hydrogen have only 1 electron in its outermost shell, right? So it needs another electron to acquire the stable electronic configuration, because either the outermost shell should have 2 electrons or it should have 8 number of electrons to attain stable electronic configuration. So carbon will share its 1 electron with this hydrogen atom, and this hydrogen atom, this hydrogen atom, and this hydrogen atom. Now you can see hydrogen is also having 2 electrons in its outermost shell after sharing here, here, and here. So all of them have attained a stable electronic configuration right now. So due to sharing of electrons, this is a covalent bonding. Now this is an image. Yes.
Sir, Ankit is trying to join. Please allow him.
You please don't focus on who is joining or not. Please focus on the lecture. It will be benefit for you. Next one is metallic bonding. You can see, right here we have positively charged ionic core. These are the positively charged ionic core, right? You can consider it as a nucleus otherwise, because and these are the free electrons. These negative sign are the free electrons, or sea of electrons. They can easily move. The positive ionic core cannot move; they are fixed. But this negative sign, these are the free electrons which can easily move. That's why they are called sea of electron or clouds, electron clouds. Fine. So there is a strong attraction between these free electrons and the positive ionic core that leads to the metallic bonding. Fine. So these are the primary bonds or chemical bonds which are very strong in nature. Now these are the examples of secondary bonding which are weak force of attraction, weak bonding, because they are physical bonds. So this is an example. Atoms are molecular dipole. You can see. So it is basically called dipole-dipole interaction. Suppose one molecule is having this kind of dipole, because dipole means, you understand, 2 different poles will be there in the molecule. One end is positive, one end is negative. Here in this molecule, this end is positive, this end is negative. So obviously positive will attract negative, negative will attract positive. So there will be a bonding, physical bonding, not chemical. So this is one molecule, this is one molecule. This molecule is dipole, this molecule is dipole. So dipole-dipole interaction. This is a weak force of attraction. Similarly, here you can see this is a very beautiful image. This image is showing the atomic nucleus is present at the center and electron is revolving around it in a spherical path, right? So basically this is a symmetric configuration, but this is not a symmetrical configuration. You can see, because one during the revolution of electron, the nucleus is in one side. So you can understand electron will be in this side, fine. So they will acquire a dipole kind of movement or dipole structure, fine. So this end will become positive, this end will be becoming negative. Similarly, other molecules will be available, or other atoms will be available, where one end will be positive and other end will be negative due to this kind of asymmetric structure. It is written over here. This is positive and this is negative. So there is an attraction. Now, hydrogen bonding. The best example is hydrogen fluoride. So this is one molecule of hydrogen fluoride. This is another molecule of hydrogen fluoride, HF. Fine. So you can understand here this fluorine. Fluorine is a highly electronegative element, right? If you remember. So this part is carrying negative charge, slightly negative charge, and hydrogen is carrying slightly positively charged, right? So they will get attracted. The positively charged is getting attracted to the negatively charged because fluorine is slightly negatively charged, and here hydrogen is having slightly positively charged. So there is an attraction somewhat. Leads to hydrogen bonding. Some people call it as a residual charges. Residual charges on fluorine is negative. Residual charges on hydrogen is positive. So that's why they get attracted. And if you remember, I have told you basically these physical bonds or this weak bonds or these secondary bonds are basically present between molecules, not atoms. Basically, I think this part is clear. Now, this topic is very important. Structure of water. So, structure of water, if you remember in the previous lecture, I have told you, water never remain in individual molecular form. Like if you take a glass of H2O, basically it is better to say H2O, structure of H2O, because H2O can remain in liquid form, that is we are calling it water, and H2O can be also remain in solid form, we are calling it as ice, fine. So better to call H2O rather than calling it water. Liquid form of H2O is water, solid form of H2O is ice, right? So what is the structure of H2O, right? So as I told, H2O basically remain in a associated form. You have to remember this statement. H2O molecules always remain in an associated form. They do not remain as an individual H2O molecule, right? So one molecule of H2O will be automatically bonded with another molecule of H2O, and the molecule of H2O will be bonded with another molecule of H2O. So they remain in association form. So the question is now why they remain in association form. I will explain that soon. So do many people get confused in this? They think that if they will consider a single molecule of H2O, they understand two hydrogen atoms is there, one oxygen atom is there, right? So they think that oxygen is present in the center, and in the right hand side one hydrogen atom will be present, in the left side another hydrogen atom will be present, right? Like in a straight line, right? So at the middle oxygen atom will be there, in the right side of that oxygen hydrogen atom will be there, in the left side of the oxygen atom and the hydrogen atom will be there. So it will be like in a straight line. But this is not the exact, or this is not the real structure of H2O molecule. The real structure of H2O molecule is like this. Like this. You can see. That means oxygen atom is present over here. Hydrogen atom should be here, and hydrogen atom should be here. But hydrogen atom is, this hydrogen atom and this hydrogen atom is forming an angle with the oxygen atom. What is that angle? 105 degrees centigrade. Sorry, 105 degree. So the angle formed by this hydrogen and this hydrogen with oxygen atom is 105. So hydrogen atoms do not lie in a single straight line. Fine. Similarly, you consider this one. Oxygen atom is present over here, one hydrogen atom is here, and the hydrogen atom is here. They're forming an angle of 105 degree. Fine. Another molecule of H2O is present over here. You can see oxygen is here, hydrogen is here, hydrogen is here. They form an angle of 105 degree. Fine. So this is the single molecule of H2O. So due to formation of this kind of angularity, that means the hydrogen atoms are forming an angle with oxygen atom of 105 degree. This side, this is one, now this become one side and this become one side, right? So this side is carrying a residual positive charge, right? If I will cut this at the center here, for example, so left side will now become carrying slightly positively charged or residual positively charged, and oxygen is carrying a negatively charged, right? Similarly, you consider this one, this molecule. So here, if I'll cut at the center, this is carrying negatively charged, and this end is carrying slightly positively charged, right? So what will happen? Oxygen is carrying negatively charged, and hydrogen part is carrying positively charged. So oxygen, since carrying negative charge, will be attracted to the hydrogen of another molecule. Similarly, in this molecule, the hydrogen will be attracted by the oxygen. Here you can see. So this hydrogen is attached to this oxygen. This oxygen is attached to this hydrogen. So this dotted dash line, this dashed line are the hydrogen bond. This dashed line are the hydrogen bond, right? So you understand how hydrogen bond is forming?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So hydrogen bond is forming between the molecules of H2O, right? But what is the bonding in single H2O? What is that bond? What is this bond and what is this bond?
Covalent bond.
Covalent bond. Very good. So in an individual molecule of H2O, they have covalent bonding, which is very strong. That's why it is very difficult to break H2O molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. But each molecule of H2O is associated with another molecule of H2O by this dash line that is called hydrogen bonding. How this hydrogen bond is forming? Due to formation of residual negative charge on oxygen and residual positive charge on the hydrogen of the another molecule, right? They get attracted. So H2O molecules always remain in associated form due to this reason. And how this residual positively charge is coming on the hydrogen atom and residual negative charge on the oxygen atom, you understand, due to this angularity. These two hydrogen atoms form an angle with the oxygen, 105 degree. If they will be in the straight line, it is not possible, basically. So this is the structure of H2O. Fine. I have made a video which is already uploaded in YouTube. You can check it. The structure of water. You can search it. Structure of water, Gautam Mehra. You will find that, obviously. And now, this is the structure of H2O, and this is also the structure of H2O. But this is a solid H2O, but this is a liquid H2O. Otherwise, you can call this water, and this is ice. But there is some difference. You can easily see the difference. There is a difference between them. So concept of hydrogen bonding and concept of difference in density of H2O in solid and liquid state. So basically what we know, that if a liquid will become solid, basically in case of metals, otherwise you can say, in case of metals and alloys, if the metals and alloys are in liquid and they will solidify to solid, the density will increase here, but the volume will decrease. Fine. This is the real scenario. But in case of H2O, this is just opposite, right? So when H2O will remain in liquid, right? When H2O will remain in liquid, and once it will become solid, what will happen? The density will decrease, the volume will increase, just opposite, which happens in case of metals and alloys. Fine. Now the question is why this is just opposite, right? Why this is opposite? Because of bonding. So here bonding is important, or I can say how number of molecules of H2O are present surrounding a single individual molecule of H2O in liquid state and in solid state. So here you can see in this structure, this is the H2O molecules in water or H2O molecules in liquid form, right? So you can see, you consider any one molecule of H2O, you can find more number of H2O molecule is surrounded by a single molecule of H2O, right? But here you can see a single molecule of H2O is surrounded by only 4 molecules of H2O. So here it is 4 in case of solid, but here it is just slightly more than that of 4.5 you can say. So when again I can repeat like this, when H2O will remain in solid form, that is ice, so individual molecule of H2O is surrounded by 4 molecule of H2O, right? That means you can say 4 hydrogen bonding is existing, right? But the moment it will melt and become liquid like this, then the initial structure will break down. Now the number of molecules of H2O surrounding an individual molecule will be increased. That is basically 4.5. So due to this change in structure, the volume, there is a change in volume, there is a change in density. So density of water is always higher, density of ice is lower, right? Or in other way, I can say volume of water is less, but volume of ice is more. It is okay now?
Yes, sir.
And also I have written here, you have to remember, due to just change in this kind of bonding in solid and liquid, there is a volume expansion of 9%. You can see when liquid H2O becomes solid H2O, the volume expansion is 9%. And 9% volume expansion is not negligible. It is significant amount, right? So that's why ice will occupy, the solid H2O or the ice will occupy more space, right? But liquid will occupy less space. Liquid H2O will occupy less space because volume is less, density is more in that case. Now we'll see some interesting fact on that. So conclusion, you understand the conclusion is here in case of H2O, just by changing in the bonding, the structure is getting changed and the property is getting changed. What kind of property? The volume and the density. These are the physical properties, fine? They're getting changed due to change in the structure, and the structure is getting changed due to change in the bonding here, right? Now, what happens to the density and volume when liquid becomes solid? Already I have explained that. What is the answer? What happens to the density and volume when liquid becomes solid? Basically,
Density decreases in volume.
I'm not asking about water, H2O. I'm asking about general metals, alloys, and any other materials. What happened to the density when liquid becomes solid? Density increases, and just opposite, volume decreases. Fine? Because density is equal to mass by volume or weight by volume. Density and volume are inversely proportional, right? But what happened to the density and volume of liquid H2O? H2O becomes solid. It is just opposite, as I told. The density
decreases, volume
increases.
Volume increases.
Very good. This is just an exception, you can say. And why? You can also justify why. Right?
Because of
bonding, right? Because of bonding, and bonding due to different bonding, structure is changed. So in other way, what I can say, the water is an open structure when it is present. Sorry, the H2O is an open structure when it is present in solid form or ice form. But when H2O is present in liquid form, that is water, it is a closed packed structure. You people are agree with this now?
Yes, sir.
Right. So now there is a good significance of that, or practical things are there. Why icebergs float? Right? Now we can justify why icebergs float. Why icebergs float
because
on water?
its volume decreases.
Yes.
Increases. The surface.
Because its volume decreases or volume increases?
Volume increases.
Yes. The icebergs that is less denser, or it is lighter than that of the water, right? Because the density of ice is less, density of water is more, right? And similarly, there is another interesting fact: use of antifreeze to automobiles cooling system in cold countries in winter, basically. So can you justify this one again? What is the need of adding antifreeze to automobile cooling system? That means if you not add any antifreeze to the cooling system, what will happen? If you add antifreeze to the automobile's cooling system, what will happen in the cold countries in winter? Can anybody justify that? Suppose you are in Europe or you are in Russia, where the environment is extremely cold, like -20, -30 degrees centigrade, right? And it is a winter season, for example, right? So you have two cars. In one car, you have added antifreeze freezing agent in the cooling system, and in another car, you haven't added any kind of antifreeze. So what will happen? What is the difference?
Sir, when we add antifreeze to an automobile, its fuel doesn't get freezed.
Okay, so
So when it gets solidified, the volume will expand, so it can cause
very good.
damage to our
What will
automobile.
happen then?
It will cause damage to the parts of
Very good, excellent. Your answer is right. So you understand, if you haven't added any antifreeze, the environment is very extremely cold and it is winter. So maximum chance is that the liquid becomes solid. And once the liquid becomes solid, basically, what will happen? It will expand and it will damage your cooling system. It will damage your cooling system, or it will damage the vehicle due to the volume expansion, right? It may create cracks. It may create fracture, right? Similarly, there is a very interesting example I would like to show you in the image. Consequence of volume expansion of water upon freezing. So you can see formation of portholes by freeze-thaw cycle. This is thaw actually, TH thaw. Formation of portholes by freeze-thaw cycle due to break off the pavement in street. So the pavements in the street got break and portholes may form, right? So why this is happening? Because of the volume expansion of the water upon freezing. Basically, what happens in the cold countries, many fractures you can able to see many fractures, many portholes in the pavement in the street, right? Because of the freezing of the water, freezing of the H2O. That leads to expansion in the volume. How this is happening? You can understand. This is an image showing water is getting into the small cracks or small pores present in the concrete structures. The pavements or the street are made up of concretes. So water will go inside that. How? Because of capillary action. You understand? Small pores will be there, so the water will go inside that. And if it is winter, what will happen? The water will become solid. H2O becomes solid. It will become freeze. So when it will freeze, there will be expansion in the volume. 9% increase in the volume will be there, right? So what will happen? Small crack will form due to the expansion of this water when it become freezed, right? And again, what will happen when there will be sunlight falling on it, or when it will be summer, or when the temperature is higher, this ice will melt, or then they will get evaporate out. Now you can able to see some fracture surfaces on the pavements or on the street. And if this will continue in a cyclic way, the water will go and it will freeze, it will expand, the crack formation will be there, and again it will evaporate. Finally, it may lead to formation of portholes. I think you people have understood this one. Why portholes are
Yes,
forming
sir.
in cold countries, in the pavements? Yeah, you have any doubts, you can ask me right here. So why I'm giving these examples? Because ultimately structure is important here, right? Structure. Property is important here, right? Now, this is a very beautiful image. Can anybody figure it out what this image is showing? Can you people figure it out? What is this image is showing? Don't tell me these are cold drink bottles or these are carbonated beverage containers. But
Sir,
what interesting thing you are seeing? Yes.
sir, one is
Sir,
cane,
glass,
Plastic
and
glass.
cane.
cane.
Yeah, very good. So in other way, what you can say? Same product is same, right? Coca-Cola cold drink, right? Or carbonated beverages, right? But the container which it is made up of is different. This is metallic, this is ceramic, and this is a polymer, right? You probably have understood?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Same product but different materials, engineering materials. So this is made up of aluminium, this is a metallic materials, this is made up of a glass, that is a ceramic, this is made up of your polyester or polyurethane, that is a polymer actually. So different engineering materials. Okay, have you ever seen okay, fine, you can do this experiment at your home. You buy these three things and you keep it in the freeze and just have a notice after 2 to 3 months what is happening. You will find out that this plastic bottle or this polymeric bottle will get flattened after 2 to 3 months automatically. Why? Can anybody guess? But this will not get flattened, this will remain as such, this will not get flattened, this will remain as such. Do you remember what is present inside this bottles? Addition to the liquid, what is present inside this bottle?
Carbon
Water.
dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is present inside these bottles at a high pressure. The moment you open the bottles, the CO2 will come out, right? Pressure means they are in dissolved form. CO2 is in dissolved form in these bottles with a high pressure, right? So why this get flattened? Because due to coming out of the carbon dioxide from the bottle automatically with time. But here the carbon dioxide cannot come out. Here the carbon dioxide cannot come out with time. But if you open it, the carbon dioxide will come out slowly. Right? So the fizz, it is called FIZZ, fizz. Fizziness or fizz. Fizz or fizziness. So fizziness or the fizz. The fizziness or the fizz will go on in the plastic bottle, right? But fizziness will not go in this one, will not go in this one, right? So that means you got an idea right now. Suppose you are traveling somewhere and you want to keep fizziness, then better to buy which kind of bottles? Plastic bottles or cans or this kind of bottles?
Cans.
Cans and
Cans.
glass bottles you need to buy. But if you buy this plastic kind of bottle, the fizziness will go away, right? Because this kind of plastic bottles allow the carbon dioxide to pass away with time, slowly, right? Fizziness actually means what? You have seen when you pour a cold drink into a glass of water to serve any guest or yourself. Otherwise, what will happen? You'll observe some hissing sound. Yes or no?
Yes,
Kind
sir.
of sound will be coming out. So that means CO2 is coming out of that particular cold drink, right? Anyways, so if you look into the advantage and disadvantage, then what you can say, this kind of can bottles can get dent easily. This is strong one, but it can get a dent because this is ductile. Fine. So this is one of the limitation. But another limitation is this kind of manufacturing is expensive, and aluminium is also expensive somewhat. Fine. But advantage is this one somewhat stronger and it can retain the fizziness. And what about this one? This one disadvantage is what? It will fracture into pieces the moment it will fall down. So it cannot sustain the impact forces. But this can sustain impact force, but this will become dent. But this cannot sustain impact force. This can break during the traveling or during the transportation. But advantage is this can sustain the fizziness. And another limitation of this one is it is heavy somewhat, heavier. And what about this one? This one is flexible. You can carry it. This will not get dent. This will not break down into pieces on impact. But the fizziness will go away. And manufacturing cost is also low. This can easily take any shape. This is flexible. Polymer are flexible, if you remember. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of these materials. I think this part is clear, right?
So how does the carbon dioxide escape out of the plastic
Because
bottle
of
and
the
not?
because of the structure itself. Some micro porosity will be there. Very small pores will be there. So that's why it is coming out. Fine. But in case of this one and this one, there will be no pores. Fine. Now, structure property correlation of aluminum oxide. This image I have already shown you, but I have taken an example of Gotham, right? But here you can see. Anybody remember this image? What it is showing?
So your PPT is not visible.
Okay, okay, the current is gone. Okay, I will stop the presentation over here. You can leave. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, after that. Okay, you people can leave. Otherwise,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.